It was late one evening when Sarah first noticed the noise. She lived in a small, aging apartment complex on the edge of town, the kind of place where tenants mostly kept to themselves and the walls carried every sound. Still, the footsteps from above caught her attention because the apartment directly over hers had been vacant for years. The landlord had mentioned it during her move-in. No one else rented the upstairs unit in a long time. It needs repairs. At first, she assumed she was imagining it. Old buildings made strange noises. But that night, around midnight, the footsteps came again, slow and deliberate, pacing from one end of the ceiling to the other. The following day, Sarah casually asked her landlord if anyone had finally moved into the empty unit. He shook his head firmly. "No, it's still locked up. Why do you ask?" She brushed it off, embarrassed, muttering something about hearing things. But that night, the noises grew louder. She heard dragging sounds, like furniture being pulled across the floor and what sounded like a chair scraping against wood. Her heart raced as she lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling. The footsteps stopped suddenly, replaced by silence so heavy it felt like someone was listening to her from above. Days turned into weeks, and the disturbances only got worse. Sometimes it was faint whispers, muffled but urgent, as though several people were speaking just out of earshot. Other times it was the unmistakable sound of heavy boots crossing the floor. One night, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. Grabbing a broom, she banged on the ceiling, yelling for whoever was up there to stop. For a few seconds, the noise ceased. Then, in response, 3 slow, deliberate knocks echoed back through the ceiling. Sarah dropped the broom in shock, her blood running cold. She tried to convince herself it was squatters, maybe kids who had found a way in. But when she asked her landlord to check, he swore the locks were intact and there were no signs of entry. "That place is sealed up," he said. "No one's been inside in years." His certainty should have reassured her, but it only made her more uneasy. That night, as rain battered the windows, Sarah was jolted awake by a loud thud above her bed, as if something had fallen hard to the floor. Then came the dragging noise again, directly overhead, moving slowly across the ceiling until it stopped above her door. Unable to ignore it any longer, Sarah decided to investigate. The next afternoon, she borrowed a spare key from the landlord, insisting she wanted to see for herself. The upstairs apartment smelled of dust and stale air, clearly untouched for ages. Cobwebs stretched across the corners and a thick layer of dirt coated the floor. Everything was empty, no furniture, no belongings, nothing. She exhaled in relief, about to leave, when she noticed something strange. Streaks across the floorboards, faint marks as if something heavy had been dragged from one end of the room to the other. They lined up perfectly with the spots where she had heard noises at night. That evening, she tried to convince herself it had to be old damage, nothing more. But at 2 a.m., the sounds returned, heavier this time, angrier, as if whatever was up there knew she had invaded its space. The footsteps thundered from wall to wall, the dragging noise reverberated, and then, chillingly, the sound of something scratching slowly across the ceiling above her bed began. Heart pounding, Sarah hid under her blanket, every muscle tense, until the noise stopped. She drifted off near dawn, exhausted, but woke to find fresh dust scattered across her floor dust that looked like it had fallen from above. The final straw came one stormy night a week later. As lightning lit up her room, she heard the familiar dragging sound. But this time, it was inside her apartment. She froze, her eyes darting toward the corner of her room, where a chair she hadn't moved in weeks scraped slowly across the floor by itself. Then came the footsteps, not above, but directly behind her. Sarah ran, not even bothering to grab her keys, bursting out into the rain-soaked street below. She never returned to that apartment again. To this day, that upper unit remains empty. The landlord still insists no one has lived there, that the locks have never been tampered with. But the tenants who come and go from the lower units all report the same thing. The footsteps, the dragging, and the scratching that comes late at night, always from the apartment that's been empty for years. Thank you for watching. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more terrifying true horror stories every day.